3 prove that the first 2 games were flukes.
Absolutely not. So I have a question.
Yeah.
Can we count the Knicks' performance from 3 in Game 3 like you did the Celtics' performance from 3 in Games 1 and 2?
Sure.
Okay. Well, then it all is evened out. Because here's what you wouldn't get from this show. Bad job by me in particular on letting Wilds get away with this. The beginning of this series. Who was the better three-point shooting team this year, Boston or New York? This is New York. No.
They had a higher percentage?
The higher percentage.
Knicks?
The New York Knicks, who when they scored 91 points in Game 1 or Game 2, it was presented as if that's what they do. The New York Knicks this year are the 5th best offense in basketball. The Celtics are the 2nd best. The Celtics shoot way more threes, but the Knicks' percentage from 3 is a touch, but a touch better. In this series so far, Boston is shooting.
Doesn't Denver shoot well from 3 too? They just don't take it.
Yeah,
right, but the Knicks aren't Denver dead last in the league in it. The Celtics this series from 3 are shooting 32%. The Knicks this series from 3 are shooting 33%. So what is not fair is to act like the games where the Celtics had a historically bad three-point shooting night are these outlier, can never happen, and the team had nothing to do with it, the opposing team performances. And when the Knicks go 5 of 25 from 3, that's the Celtics exerting their will. I just don't think that is a realistic analysis of the series.
But when you watch this, fluke is too strong. The first 2 games weren't flukes. But what last Game 3 did prove, Boston is just way better.
They are a better
They
team.
have dominated the Knicks for the most. They had 2. Now, you can lose a series like this, but they had 2 terrible stretches at the end of Game 1 and the end of Game 2. But they've been up 20 in every game.
Yeah.
Like in Game 3, they held on. And to me, that was the worst way for the Knicks to lose because and you said you were there and when the Knicks closed to 17 or pulled within 22, whatever it was, the Garden's rocking. And I get it, because you're like, here we go. This is what we do. And this time, Boston was like, no. And so, to me, that was the worst way for the Knicks to lose, because Boston just has dominated them for the bulk of this series. And then they put their foot down and said, no, you're not getting close to us tonight.
Yeah, listen, it's not a fluke. But they shot historically bad. So it's an outlier. Like a fluke is almost kind of like that's impossible that could happen, right? You know, it's not, it feels like it's kind of like not in the realm of a possibility. You know, something happened that should have never happened. It was a fluke, you know? But it was historical. And so you're not expecting it to be something historically bad. So what does the win prove for the first 2 games for the Celtics? It shows a flaw and a con for the Celtics style play. Doesn't mean that it's wrong, doesn't mean that it needs to be changed, although you can absolutely make that an argument. And I may even do so, but it shows the drawback to that style play. Look no further than just basic examples of just individual players, okay? What is the pro of a Steph Curry? Unbelievably gifted shooter, offensive production absolutely through the roof. What is a con of Steph Curry? A little bit smaller, a little bit weaker relative to some of these other bigger, stronger players. You know, not as great of a defensive player. Like, so there's always strengths and weaknesses to players, to styles of play, to the way how certain teams are constructed. You know, so a lot of times when you're really big and tall, it's harder for you to really run as fast, right? Like, I can outrun Jokic. Obviously, Jokic is 10 million times better than I'll ever be, but it's like, what is a drawback of Jokic? He could be a little slow, you know, and a little bit heavy-footed. Okay, there you go. Same thing with Shaquille O'Neal. So that's what that proves more than anything. And it's just kind of like, you know, the Celtics can find themselves in a position where they are truly at the mercy of the basketball gods, more than you would want. But to be fair, so are the Warriors for years. They were at the mercy of, like, are Steph and Clay going to go off? If Steph's not going off, will Clay go off? If Clay's not going off, will Steph go off? You know, when you added a Kevin Durant, now you're like, well, we just need one of them to be able to be, you know, the chances of all three of them being cold are slim to none. That would be a fluke, right? That would be an outlier. But there's plenty of games that you watch when you're just like, Steph's only 2 for 10 from 3. While there's other games that he's like 10 for 12, and you're just like, how could you ever lose a game? You know, it's only Steph should shoot. No one else should shoot. And you can't go by like, oh, well, they're 33% and this team's 32%. Like, I know that's how people want to make sense of the world and how they want to make sense of sports, but that's just not how this works. It's just not, honestly. And not all 3-point shots are equal. And because, again, we know Steph Curry is the greatest shooter. I like to keep using Steph as an example because we know Steph is the best 3-point shooter of all time, and yet there's plenty of times that has a lower shooting percentage. There's other players that have a higher shooting percentage. And it's just like, when you're a high volume shooter, that's what's going to happen. And that's what happens with the Celtics too. They're not necessarily strategic about the types of threes they shoot. They're strategic in the sheer volume of threes they shoot. But that's why also basketball's best of 7 and not one off. Because it's like, yeah, you might be able to beat us a couple games, but more often than not, the vast majority of the time, the better team does win in a best of 7 outside of like injury concerns, which is why, and I forget what the stats are right now, but like, you know, game 7s, the home team wins like an insane amount relative to the away team. Why? Is it home court advantage? No. It's because if you're the home team, you're going to be the better team because you're the home team. You have home court advantage because you should, in theory, be the better team. That's why. It's not just because of the fans and the travel. It's because you're the better team. And more often than not, the better team will win a best of 7 series. Same thing with the shooting, right? The better shooting team over best of 7 series should, in theory, make more shots. Should, in theory, make more threes, whatever it may be. You know, more free throws, like, you know, whatever statistical point we're trying to zoom in on. So it's going to be, I'm fascinated to see, you know, how these next couple of games go, especially if we kind of get some repeats. If anything, I just really think that this shows that, again, the Boston Celtics style of play clearly works, is clearly beneficial, but maybe the door should be a little bit more open to be a little bit more flexible and say, hey, you know what? Sometimes we're going to wear this hat. Sometimes we're going to take it off. Sometimes we're going to put on a different hat. Like it's okay to be a little bit more flexible and less rigid. So compared to football, where it's just kind of like, nope, every single time 4th and 2, we go for it on 4th down, no matter what the odds say we should, right? That's what the analytics say, and it's like, that yes, mathematically that's correct, but doesn't mean you should do it every single time you're 4th and 2. You got to take a look. What defense are you playing? You know, how many points did you score? What's the score of the game? What quarter is it? You know, does a field goal, you know, go up 2 scores? You know, it's like there's so many other things to factor in that I feel as though basketball is still a little bit behind in those analytics. Now, football was super analytic driven, and then they realized, you know what, we got to add a little bit more nuance to it. Basketball, I feel as though, is still a little bit slower to that aspect now, right? It really is still very much, you know, layup, dunk, or 3, and I think they have to kind of, you know, evolve past that a little bit, but this doesn't need to be a jumping off point to kind of just, you know, clown the Boston Celtics or bring them down. I don't see the point in that personally. But those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about the Boston Celtics? What do you think their win proved? Do you think that it was a fluke? Do you still think that the Celtics will come back and win the series? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment, so whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions. Let's get in some fights, but ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and I absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to. Something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're well on our way to doing it. And please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much. See you next time.